1848, California exists. Clear water streams, fish, green wilderness. The last moment of bliss, the last breath of freedom. Greed cries, Eureka, 49 of pirates come organized for 100,000s. Prospecting gold, massacre life, land, and the way of old. Culture of natives, we stand living people. Hunters and gatherers of earth before evil. In slavery legal, April 1815. Act for government protection of Indians, Article 3 and 14. Women and children bought and sold. Called diggers, squads, and Buddha, all for the lust of
gold, greed, genocide, you can't hide. Gold, greed, genocide, you can't hide.
Gold! News that the precious metal had been found buried in the riverbeds of California spread like wildfire after James Marshall found a nugget in the Sacramento River in Coloma, on native Maidu lands in 1848. The world rushed into the sleepy little village of Yerba Buena, turning it into the bustling city of San Francisco and the center for the California Gold Rush. In 1849, a year after Marshall's discovery, thousands of would-be millionaires flocked to the state by wagon and eventually by train, bringing with them guns and other weapons. The gold prospectors traveled deep into the Sierra Mountains, down to the brush-covered hills and marshes of the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys, and climbed the mountains of the rugged Northwest, invading the lands of hundreds of our communities. For many thousands of years, we have lived here in a good way, living off the bountiful rivers and forests of our mother, the earth.
Kaimutiptanin, 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 naitiptanin, urmu israete, naitiptanin, urmu israete.
We're standing on my traditional lands that no longer belong to us. At this point, my tribe only has a 50-acre recognized reservation, but the southeastern Pomo owned all of this land that you can see in the background. This was our private lands, our fishing village. We sustained ourselves here for over 10,000 years until the arrival of the Spanish and the Americans.
Everything was fruitful. There used to be a lot of elk in here and that kind of thing. And the miners just ate all the elk up and left us with nothing.
Over the 20 years of the gold rush, the numbers of our people plummeted from 150,000 to 31,000. Most of our ancestors starved to death after being forcibly removed from our lands and prevented from maintaining our traditional ways of living. Many of our relatives also died from diseases brought in by the miners. Others were also put to death in a series of deliberate killings organized by the local townspeople and by private militia financed by the state of California. The Wiyot peoples of modern Eureka and the Pomo of Clear Lake are two communities that were massacred by the settlers.
The townspeople of Eureka decided that they wanted to take it, and one night, February 26, 1860, they came quietly, silently. They left their guns at home, and they brought clubs and hatchets. They came while they were sleeping, and the men were gone, and they killed the women and children and the elders. So the island is bloody. And there was a baby found on that island in 1860, the morning of, after the massacre took place. And that baby was Jerry James, and he was my great-great-grandfather.
It was public policy to take my scalp. It was public policy to take my ear. Public policy even to take my head and sell it to California's government for $5. We're standing at this rock here where it says Bloody Island. Scene of a battle between the U.S. soldiers under command of Captain Lyons and Indians under Chief Augustine. This battle that they're calling was actually a massacre of our people here on Benapati. And it started with these two men from the Sonoma area called Charles Stone and Andrew Kelsey. They bought some land from Vallejo, General Vallejo, and came up here and brought their cows and settled in the area over there by Canactai, the town that they call Kelseyville now. They treated the Indians real bad. They would enslave them. They made them build fences around their own village so they couldn't go hunting or gathering. And they wanted complete control. They would tell the parents to bring your little girls to our house, Stone and Kelsey. And the parents would, and if they refused, they would get hung in a tree and they would get whipped and left there all night for punishment. They were treated so bad and starving that they went and killed Charles Stone and Andrew Kelsey. And for killing them, Ben Kelsey heard about it, and he got 15 vigilantes together, which one of the vigilantes was the governor of California, William Boggs. There was lawyers, there were businessmen. I mean, it was just, you know, regular citizens got together and they came over here just to kill and revenge what happened to Andrew Kelsey and Charles Stone.
One of the few survivors of this massacre was Lucy Moore, the great-grandmother of Clayton Duncan.
The reason why she survived was because of a game that the kids played around here in the Tulies, a hide-and-go-seek game. They would take a reed and they would hide under the water and breathe through this reed while, you know, they would be hiding. And it was kind of hard to, you know, find a little brown kid in a bunch of Tulies, you know, breathing through the reed under the water. And so she knew that game. And when this battle happened, when this butchering happened, well, that's what she done. She took this reed, her mother told her to get a reed, she got under the water and she started breathing through the reed, and that's how she survived.
The Wiyot and the Pomo were not the only peoples to be targeted for extinction by the miners in the California Gold Rush. The Wintu peoples of Mount Shasta reported deliberate attempts to wipe out entire villages.
We had a big feast over toward Trinity Center because our tribe goes over that far too. And we have what we call a natural bridge. And that's where they try to feed a bunch of Indians and slaughter them for the food, with the poison food also. And then there's another story where the army came in and brought in blankets with smallpox in and got them sick, and they couldn't have no cure for it because Indian systems weren't the same as theirs. And so we lost a lot of our Indian people that way.
Ishi was a Yahi man. He was believed to be and called the last wild Indian in North America. It's practically the only mention of California Indians in the school system. They've never yet been able to say that yes, genocide was practiced upon and carried out to at least 250,000 people at a minimum, and all of Ishi's family, all of his people, they were all exterminated.
Many of the people who survived were forced onto reservations or sold into slavery to provide free labor in the mines and on the ranches. Over 4,000 children were bought and sold at markets at prices ranging from $60 for a boy to $200 for a girl. Enslaved women and girls were sold for higher prices because the miners and ranchers used them for forced sexual labor.
For 5 years, people were kept in concentration camps. Miners would come and take girls and boys, rape them, sell them, and finally they were put on the Siletz Indian Reservation, the Grand Ronde Reservation in Oregon. 30 women, 5 couples were allowed to stay because the couples were elders and the women were with miners. My great-great-great-grandmother was one of those women.
Immigrant diseases, smallpox, malaria, tuberculosis, measles, typhoid, cholera killed over half of the native California population. 700,000 before white man's devastation to 150,000 in 1845 to 31,000 in 1870. Fighting to stay alive against scalp and head hunters, funded by the state. Slavery, child prostitution, racism, hate. Plan for extermination, forced to assimilate. For your shiny ring and chain, the rest forced to relocate. death by starvation. Federal reservations, the people's price for paying for your gold.
Gold, green, genocide, you can't hide. Gold, green, genocide, you can't hide.
The image of 49ers panning for gold is another myth of the gold rush. Accompanying the genocide was an unprecedented destruction of California's environment, such as clear-cut logging to build houses for the miners. The gold miners dug up 12 billion tons of earth, excavating riverbeds with giant dredges, and riverbanks with specially designed water cannons, blasting apart hillsides in their greed, flushing the earth into the rivers, where they flooded the towns and fields of the Sacramento and Central Valley.
We're looking at the Malakoff pit, a hydraulic pit, which I believe is the largest hydraulic excavation in the world, that was created by the North Bloomfield Mining and Gravel Company between the years 1865 and 1884. This was a very efficient mine, and for that reason it created a lot of tailings. Tailings are the waste gravel from this kind of a mine that was dumped into the streams. That soil and those trees sit on top of what was once a riverbed 60 million years ago. To mine this, all of this is blasted away by water cannons or hydraulic monitors and run through sluice boxes. Those sluice boxes were charged, as they said, with mercury or quicksilver.
Hydraulic. And the full force water comes through here into this place here. Right here, the full force water coming here. Then we come up here, had a big weight here. Big weight right here. Then we come along here, we hang on to this here. You know, hang on to this here. So the water's so god darn powerful that when you start shooting, you can shoot any goddamn thing from here to the car, way up there, with the full force of that thing. They call that giant. I watch them and I seen a mine. Boy, they can take a hillside down fast.
All of the debris that was dumped into the river as a result. And by the debris, I mean literally the pulverized mountain. The mountain was pulverized into a substance that at that time was called slickens. And the phrase of the day was that slickens was too thick to drink and too thin to plow. Now you can see how shallow the river is here. And the river's shallowness is caused by the hydraulic mining, with the silt buildup all along the river, raising the banks 30 feet, making it very difficult to protect the city of Marysville. In 1875, the levees of Marysville were breached, and the city was not just underwater, but it was buried in slickens. The basements filled up. The first stories of the buildings in Marysville filled up with slickens, so that for months afterward, the city did not only have to drain itself of water, it had to dig itself out of the slickens with wheelbarrows and wagons and men with shovels working daily to excavate the city.
And it also inundated acres and acres of farmland, so there were a series of legal challenges to this style of mining. In 1884, in the case of Woodruff versus North Bloomfield Mining and Gravel Company, Judge Alonzo Sawyer issued a ruling that effectively ended hydraulic mining, and that ruling was that the tailings could no longer be dumped into the watercourses. With that kind of a constraint, the investors in these mines didn't feel that they could make a profit, and they pulled out.
In addition, the miners used mercury to extract gold from the ore losing 7,600 tons of the toxic metal into local rivers and lakes. Mercury is a deadly toxin that affects the kidney, the brain, and the nervous system. A teaspoon of mercury poured into a pond would be enough to contaminate all the fish, as well as anyone who ate fish out of the pond. That mercury remains with us today in the San Francisco Bay and in the American, Bear, Feather, Klamath, Sacramento, and Yuba rivers.
These days, there have been some abandoned mine surveys trying to get a sense of where that most of the mercury left over from those days is concentrated. And probably the highest concentration of mercury is found in these drain tunnels, of which every hydraulic mine has at least one.
We're surrounded by a beautiful, once beautiful lake that we can't even walk into, and it's dangerous to even fish or eat the natural like wildlife or the plants that we once gathered and harvested. The major concern that we have is we felt a lot of our elders, our fishermen, died of mercury poisoning. And at that time, none of us knew why they were dying at early ages. My father was one of those people who died in 1982, and later on we realized that he had symptoms of mercury poisoning. When our fishermen went out, they didn't just throw a pole in, they fished through nets, seines, and traps. And when that fish was brought in, they shared it with the whole community. So what we were doing was spreading the mercury contamination to our families without realizing it.
Deadly mercury affects the brain and kidney, dissolves gold out of ore, runs in the rivers to the sea. In the Yuba, Feather, Bear, American rivers all the way through the Sacramento River to the San Francisco Bay. Streams and lakes turn to toxins and mud, all life and vegetation destroyed. For what? Mountains blasted, city-sized pits in the earth, hydraulic mining and mercury. Was it worth it for your
Gold, green, genocide, you can't hide. Gold, green, genocide, you can't hide.
150 years after the gold rush, the search for the yellow metal has not ended. Mining companies have switched to deadly cyanide instead of mercury in places like Clear Lake and Death Valley. Although the biggest rush for gold is across the border on Shoshone lands in modern Nevada. Meanwhile, California's native peoples continue to fight for recognition of our traditional lands, as well as our hunting, gathering, and fishing rights. And along the way, the Caddo peoples of the Klamath River, the Wiyot peoples of Eureka, and the Pomo of Clear Lake are teaching the next generation the cultural traditions of storytelling, songs, dances, basket weaving, and medicine gathering.
Everything we once lived for is now contaminated. Our whole livelihood and our lifestyle is gone. So it's like the government wants us to accept society the way it is.
The reason why they didn't want to recognize us because we had all the water, we had all the timber, we had all the gold, we had the copper, and wildlife, and you name it. That's the reason why they want to recognize us. So today we're recognized, and I strongly believe we're going to make it.
We, the Pit River people, the Pit River Tribe or Nation, and Redding Rancheria, where we are today, they were the two federally recognized tribes that the federal government decided had the legal right to Ishi's remains. We returned Ishi, we got him back, we did it in a good way. He is buried in the heartland of his people's country, his family members, his ancestors. He was allowed to be free.
The great thing I can say about my tribe, and there are a few other tribes in the state, we've maintained our ceremonial practices. We still have a roundhouse, and we still practice and have ceremonies there. That is a tradition that keeps going. I'm also very proud that our elders empowered all our families with tradition, and we have younger people stepping up to take their roles and responsibilities in that.
Keep the tradition alive and just stay strong and
stay on the right path. Keep dancing, keep the culture going, and pass it on and pass it on.
This song came to me, and I call it Going Home. And literally, we are going to go home soon. We will have our dances on our island soon. And this is the song. Nahi nahi noa, nahi nahi noa, nahi nahi noa, e noa, e noa, nahi nahi noa, nahi nahi noa, nahi nahi noa, e noa, e noa.
True, you should see it's the same. You may think it's all in past, that continues today. Cyanide technology leaves 3 million tons of waste for every ton of gold. More dangerous than guns from Alaska to Brazil, Africa to the Philippines, killing, not destroying Earth. For more gold cash we've seen, these devils dropping acid rivers 10,000 times more acidic than car baddies from mountain drainage. Don't be blind, stop the mining of gold, destroying the environment, people and water, and the futures of us heavens and our children of today and tomorrow. We're gonna suffer. The devil got you fooled, but more important than your mother, mother, mother.